Pandora, the world that stole our hearts and imaginations more than 15 years ago. Unlike so many universes, Star Wars, Marvel, Harry Potter even, Avatar has not had the same degree of opportunities to explore its magical world beyond the movies. That is, until Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, an incredibly beautiful creation of Pandora that allows you to live out your Avatar fantasy. It is rich with characters, stories, wildlife, and a whole lot of detail that makes it truly feel like you've been transported to another planet. Today, I am going to be sharing those characters with you. Characters like Keawa, the young, rebellious Sahik of the Aranahe clan, and Memna, a Keawa Kame'tire who just wishes to connect more with his son. These stories are canon, and they are filled with heart-wrenching and relatable moments that build your love of Avatar and Pandora even more. In addition to sharing their stories, I'll be taking you through the places that they call home on this beautiful and forgotten part of Pandora. Welcome to the Western Frontier. We'll start things off with the Sarentu. It's the clan from which your character is born and the driving force behind the main story. As the Sarentu set out to re-establish their clan, they have no permanent home on Pandora. Seeing as how they were integral to reuniting the clans, they are welcomed at all the clans' homes. The Great Games, put on by the Zeswa clan, has always signified union between clans, and since the return of the Sarentu, the games have been put on for the first time in a long time. So it is only fitting to showcase the Great Games camp as the home of the Sarentu. Talon. As the youngest of the Sarentu children, Talon's memories start to tap. As he grew older, he developed an affinity for human science and technology. By far the best of the Sarentu students, his passion was rewarded by Mercer, which further separated him from the rest of the Sarentu kids. Mercer groomed him into feeling special, but was quick to withdraw affection if Talon ever showed interest in Na'vi culture. After Talon was woken from cryosleep, he was recovered by the Resistance. Now, based in their HQ, he helps as much as he can if that means ensuring humans are not in danger. He enjoys his new human home, as he finds little comfort in wild Pandora. After Mercer bombed Resistance HQ, Talon admitted that he had been communicating with Mercer secretly and told him how to find Resistance HQ ahead of the bombardment. His need for a father figure in Mercer clouds Talon's judgment. After this revelation, Talon broke off contact with the Sarentu and Resistance. When the Resistance planned to hack into the RDA's network to take down Mercer, their plans were thwarted by Talon. This created unease and dissent among the Sarentu and their allies. Some still want to believe Talon will help them in the future, while others see him as a traitor who should go down with Mercer. Talon's loyalty to his Sarentu friends was proven when he finally stood up to Mercer, refusing to obey him any longer. It was a big moment for Talon as he finally faced his own demons and let go of his need for Mercer's approval to feel any self-worth. Still struggling with guilt for his relationship with Mercer and aware of his reliance on human technology and learnings, Talon made efforts to better embrace his Sarentu heritage and join the Resistance expedition to the Great Games. The celebration of Na'vi culture takes Talon out of his comfort zone as he tries to reconcile his Tap upbringing and the world he now lives in. Nor, Sarentu survivor. Nor is a little older than most of the other Sarentu children. As a result, he found it harder to adjust to Tap and always rebelled against the human authority of Mercer and Alma. His hatred of all things human solidified when Mercer murdered his closest friend, Ahadi. His ongoing rebellion is in part to honor what he thinks Ahadi would have wanted him to do, but it is also a manifestation of the confusion and hurt Nor is grappling with. Nor continues to struggle to find his place on Pandora, especially among the human resistance. He tries his best to tolerate them and their drive to make things better, but he thinks the best thing for Pandora is if all the humans leave. His distrust is vindicated when they uncover Colonel Angela Harding's black market operation, trading in stolen Na'vi artifacts and hunting trophies. This revelation sours any affinity Nor may have been feeling towards the humans in the Resistance. He confronts Alma about her complicity in Mercer's cruel authority during their Tap years, but before she can say much, Resistance HQ is bombarded by Mercer's forces. The revelations of TAPCon 1 and the discovery of what really happened at the Sarentu Moot site are all too much for Nor to deal with. Years of hurt and conflicting emotions boil over, and he stabs Alma in her avatar form, knowing that she lied to them all these years. He expects his Sarentu friends to understand, but he feels they turn against him. When Sotlek chastises him, Nor feels betrayed by his friend and leaves the resistance, disappearing somewhere into Pandora. Rietnella, Sarentu survivor. Rietnella was fearful of Mercer and his regime. She engaged in some quiet rebellion, but preferred to focus on protecting the other Sarentu children and picking her battles. She was intimidated by Ahadi's fearlessness and also thought it would only lead to more trouble. Rietnella sometimes feels overwhelmed and even a little alienated by her own culture as she attempts to find her place on Pandora. She focuses on connecting to Keawa and searching for information on the Sarentu children to help them reclaim their heritage. When Alma was injured in Mercer's bombing of Resistance HQ, Rietnella took charge of rebuilding the Resistance. Once she found out that Alma was co-founder of TAP and hid so much from the Sarentu, Rietnella realized that passivity is not the answer. Going forward, she begins to take a more active role in the Resistance leadership. As Rietnella continues to grow in her knowledge of Na'vi culture, she now begins to take on a Sahik role. She focuses on learning from other clans and finding her way as a diplomat, which suits her preferred ways of communicating. She decides the best way forward is for the Sarentu to forge their own future, and she becomes the new leader of the Resistance in the region. Rietnella sees the Great Games as a chance to strengthen relationships with other clan leaders and cement the Sarentu into the cultural life of the Western frontier. She encourages her fellow Sarentu to immerse themselves in Na'vi activities, and she takes satisfaction from seeing them grow and thrive. Ahadi. Rebellious and brave, Ahadi was your sister and one of the oldest of the Sarentu children at TAP. She was the most defiant of Mercer and the program. She tried to hold on to her Na'vi heritage, encouraging the others to join her. Nor admired her strength of spirit, and they were close friends. Ultimately, her rebellion ended when Mercer killed her during an attempted escape from TAP. Entu, Sarentu ancestor. Entu is the first Toruk Makto and founder of the Sarentu clan. He once connected the clans with his stories of the past, bridging their disputes with his wise words and wry humor. But now, through the Tarsiu, he connects the Sarentu to their past and provides a bridge between them and their ancestral wisdom. Kataru, your mother. Kataru helped care for all the Sarentu clan's smallest children during clan hunts and gatherings. She was skilled at dancing and loved a bit of gossip. She doted on her children and valued teaching them skills for self-sufficiency, even at a young age. She believed strongly in the Sarentu clan's ancient traditions of traveling, entertaining, and sharing clan stories across the western frontier. As such, she taught the smallest children stories, songs, and the histories of their clans so they would grow up to be adventurous, loving, and brave. She was killed at the Circle of Songs during the last Sarentu Moot. Rasi, Sarentu elder. Rasi is Sarentu, a survivor of the Sarentu clan massacre. On that terrible night, she was shot in the arm and hid under a pile of bodies, watching in the dark as the RDA took the Sarentu children away to TAP. Rasi fled to the spires of the clouded forest and has lived alone ever since, hiding her Sarentu mark with a daub of face paint. She is racked by survivor's guilt. Meeting the surviving Sarentu is a great shock for Rasi. She rejects them, believing herself unable to live up their expectations of mentorship and guidance. During the battle to destroy the grinder, Rasi joins the fight, determined that she will not turn away from her clan in need. After spending more time with the other Sarentu and seeing their bond, she softens and decides to join them, believing she may have a place among them after all. For the first time in a long time, Rasi begins to look towards the future with hope. You can find the Aranahe at Home Tree, the home of the Aranahe clan. The many chambers and twisting corridors of the mighty tree are adorned with painted tapestries and dyed silks, displaying the artistic way of life of its inhabitants. Naturally one of the nesting places of the king lore, it has recently received them in numbers that are threatening its stability. With the RDA's operation now pushed back, the king lore are returning to their natural nesting habits, letting the Aranahe and their home tree breathe a sigh of relief. Etua, Sahik of the Aranahe. Etua is the Aranahe Sahik and the daughter of Katnat, the Aranahe Oloektan. Rebellious and stubborn, she is unwilling to stand idly by as the RDA devastates the western frontier. However, as a new Sahik, Etua realizes the clan does not trust her due to her lack of experience as a leader. The Olo Ekton and Sahik should lead the clan equally, but Katnat often rejects his daughter's advice, seeing her as reckless and immature. Due to this, most of the clan looks solely to Katnat for guidance and leadership. Etua would have an easier life within the Aranahe clan if she adhered to tradition, but she is determined to fight for a better future, no matter the cost. Etua works with the Sarentu and the Resistance to help the Kinglor, finding the RDA to be behind the cause of their stress. In doing so, Etua gains new respect from the Aranahe people as Sahik. She is finally able to make Katnat see that fighting the RDA is inevitable if they want Pandora to survive. Etua now honors her mother's memory not just with her own acts of resistance against the RDA, but also by tending to the Kinglor as they begin to leave Home Tree, creating new nests in the forest once more. For Etua, the Great Games is a chance to take part in Na'vi traditions she has only heard about in stories. She is also eager to learn more from experienced spiritual clan leaders while unburdening herself from the conformity of Aranahe society for a while. Katnat, Olo Ekton of the Aranahe. Katnat is the Olo Ekton of the Aranahe clan. He leads the clan together with his daughter Etua, though as the older and more experienced leader, he expects the clan to see things his way. Stern and controlling, Katnat does not react well to disagreement. It helps that he is a skilled public speaker, often able to sway people to his side. Katnat believes the traditions of old have always served the Aranahe well, whereas change only brings chaos. For Katnat, such chaos is evidenced by the fate of the Kinglor. Etua is adamant that the problem lies with the RDA. They are throwing the rainforest out of balance. But, afraid for his daughter and his clan, Katnat insists that if only Etua would take responsibility for the Kinglor, all would be well. Katnat is afraid of what fighting the RDA will cost, yet he frames his fear in tradition, order, and logic when speaking to his clan. He will do whatever it takes to ensure the Aranahe people and culture is not in harm's way, and above all, he fears losing Etua to what he sees as a pointless war. Katnat lost his beloved mate, Asahe, Etua's mother, in an RDA ambush against the Resistance. This caused him to withdraw his entire clan from the fight against the RDA, choosing to remain outside of the conflict even as the RDA pushed on. He is solid in his conviction even as Home Tree creaks with the presence of the numerous Kinglor that now swarm to it from all around the forest. For Katnat, the best way for Etua to honor Asahe's memory is to stay safe and care for the now restless Kinglor. By saving the Kinglor, Etua was able to show Katnat the necessity of active resistance against the RDA. Katnat agreed that the Aranahe would join the resistance in their fight, and that he and Etua would lead the Aranahe clan together as equals. With peace restored to the western frontier, Katnat travels with Etua and others of the Aranahe to the Great Games. He hopes for his people to enjoy the celebrations, compete well in the games, and to proudly uphold the Aranahe's traditions within wider Na'vi society. Katnat last visited the Great Games in his youth, long before adopting the mantle of Olo Ekton. He remembers the festival as a great meeting of the Na'vi clans, cementing bonds sometimes forgotten in Home Tree's daily life. Nafika, the Aranahe Master Weaver. Nafika is the Aranahe clan's exuberant Master Weaver, commanding respect from all members of the clan, including Katnat, the Olo Ekton, and Etua, the Sahik. In her youth, Nafika perfected the prized Aranahe weaving and silk dyeing techniques. Her mastery of the celebrated art forms impressed the clan, and she became known as one of the best weavers of her age. However, her desire for conversation and connection as a child developed into love of gossip and drama as an adult. Her sharp wit enabled her to be sarcastic and petty at times, ensuring she always had the upper hand. Due to this, she grew in popularity with some people, but was feared by others, and became a divisive figure in the clan. However, the place she had carved out for herself among the Aranahe made her indispensable. Her years of acclaim, artistic mastery, and attention mean that she often views herself as the lifeblood of the Aranahe. She is also the prime source of gossip, relishing any opportunity to create drama. Loud and flamboyant, Nafika is an unexpected burst of individuality and flavor among the traditional conformist Aranahe. However, underneath her pricky criticisms and rambunctious laughter lies a warm heart eager to help others along their path. When the Great Games were announced, Nafika was eager to attend, not to compete, but to meet old friends, argue over dyeing and weaving techniques, and catch up with many years of news, rumor, and gossip. A2, an Aranahe hunter. A2 grew up with a family that placed great importance on quietness, conformity, and tradition, even more so than other Aranahe. Feeling stifled, he found his freedom during hunts in the forest. A2 devoted himself to hunting and spending as much time outside of home tree as he could, searching for excitement and adventure. Growing up, he became close friends with Keawa as they shared the same rebellious streak. As an adult, he is a natural ally in her fight against the RDA. As a great hunter, A2 brings honor to his family. However, he frames his boredom with communal life as bravery and a willingness to put himself in danger to protect the clan. A2's Ikran Zome was mortally wounded by the RDA and died in his arms. After this, A2 no longer glorifies danger and fearlessness as values, coming to a more balanced place after Zome's death. He realizes his own bravado was a bit ignorant, and goes forward in life with the knowledge that actions have consequences, and that fearlessness perhaps isn't the highest value. One can be brave and noble, but also know the value of fear and caution. A2 helped the Sarentu bond with their own Ikran as thanks for trying to save Zome. At the Great Games, A2 decides not to compete as he still feels the pain of Zome's death and mourns for her. Instead, he chooses to focus on healing in the presence of others' joy. Vefilu, Aranahe hunter. Vefilu is generally liked by most Aranahe and is an accomplished hunter and scout. After her childhood friend Keawa became Sahik, Vefilu feels a responsibility to protect her and help her on what she views as the right path for the clan, even if she also sees the value in the traditional, measured methods of Katnat. Vefilu is often embarrassed by her clumsy little brother, Tahewu, and feels she needs to be exceptional to compensate for his mistakes and poor reputation to protect her family's honor. This, combined with her mother Nawuk's previous shunning, can often drive her to increasingly daring feats as a hunter. Kitangi, Aranahe Bowmaster. At first glance, Bowmaster Kitangi seems to be a cold, stern teacher. However, she often surprises people with random nuggets of wisdom. Though she may seem tough and demanding to her students, she is warm and loving to her family, such as her partner, Ongwi. Kitangi respects tradition above all else, especially when it comes to Aranahe craftsmanship. She views bow making and archery as a practical art and has a long-standing friendly rivalry with Nafika. Nafika thinks she needs to loosen up, while Kitangi wants her to openly recognize that her bow mastery is an important and beautiful art. Thanks to this art, she generally has some weapon parts to spare and is pleased to share her expertise with young hunters hoping to improve. Raylun, Aranahe cook. Prior to Raylun, his grandfather was the best cook the Aranahe ever had. Although the clan usually partakes in communal cooking and eating, Raylun also prepares special dishes for the whole clan and often invents new recipes. In a clan that values art above all else, Raylun's cooking is seen as something of an art form itself. Despite Raylun's fiery temper and obsessive nature, younger Aranahe often compete to be apprenticed to him. He is a strict teacher, always expecting perfection, and is often prone to outbursts. Raylun may seem annoyed by his students, but in reality, he enjoys the respect and renown he has among them and can often appear arrogant as a result. He wants to be even greater than his grandfather was, and his highly competitive nature leads him to expect the best from everyone. However, those who impress will find him readily excited to share his recipes and knowledge. Koranu, Aranahe weaver. Koranu is Nafika's best weaving student. She also wants to be known as the best and needs Nafika to praise her. If her weaving doesn't turn out exactly as she envisioned, she falls apart. Her father, Satnap, enjoys spending long stretches of time away from home tree. The stress Koranu puts on herself to be perfect is in part driven by her father's absence and her own sense of not being good enough. She longs to get his attention. Koranu is a bit of a nitpicky perfectionist, but mainly afraid of not living up to how people view her. Due to this, she is usually very eager to help others with weaving, materials, or anything else they might need. At the Great Games, Koranu is both nervous and proud to represent the Aranahe, displaying her art to the Zeswa and the Kame'tire, while maintaining her clan's reputation as the great weavers of the Western Frontier. Koranu's skill and knowledge are noted by other clans, but she still doubts herself and longs for Nafika's approval. Alemun. Alemun is very aware of the RDA's advances and the changes to the forest. She is too young to remember the Sarentu, but loves to hear stories from the days when the clan had visitors from other clans. Seeing a Sarentu come to Home Tree, she begins to believe those happy times might return for the Aranahe and others. Alemun sees the best in people, enjoys a party, and likes a crowd. She loves to hear stories from other places and would probably be more of an adventurer if she didn't feel so strongly bound to her role. Ne'an, the son of the Aranahe's foremost bow expert Kitangi and master hunter Angwi. It is no surprise that Ne'an grew up to be confident and self-assured. A fine hunter and home tree lookout, he is tipped to be the future Olo Ektan. Ne'an is fiercely protective of his clan and proud of their traditions. He is unsure about the Sarentu's mysterious return. Kai, Aranahe Death Dowla. Kai spent most of his adult life as a healer and medicine maker, but when Asahe, the previous Sahik, was injured, it became clear there was nothing he could do to prevent her passing. At Katnat's request, he shifted into the role of Death Dowla for Asahe, comforting her and easing her pain before helping her return to Ewa. Now he serves as both a knowledgeable healer and an end-of-life guide for the Aranahe clan. He is kind to those in his care, but can be prickly and brusque when he believes injuries could have been easily avoided. Since he cared for Etua during the grief of her mother's passing, he has a soft spot for her. Leita. Something of a loner, Leita prefers to spend time outside the Aranahe home tree. She's comfortable in her own skin and quick to see the humor in a situation. This leads to her crack jokes, often in a rather blunt manner. It's clear that Leita's life in the wild has rubbed the social niceties off of her. But no matter how plain-spoken she may be, she is never intentionally cruel. A skilled survivalist, she's the clan's lead gatherer and an impressive archer. Gathering in the Kinglore Forest is far from being an easy job, and she cares about the small group under her wing to a fault, ready to do everything to protect them. Not much surprises her. Leita cares deeply for her clan and their environment. With the return of the RDA, Leita worries about the forest falling out of balance and wants everything put right again. Lure, Aranahe lead musician. A born performer, Lure demands to be the center of attention at all times. She loves to debate clan philosophers and likes to keep things interesting. She'd be a sore loser if she ever lost. Lure was born to Nafika and Angwe before their relationship ended and he paired with Katangi instead. Nafika was always quite distant as a mother, more focused on her art and her position in the clan. Lure compensated for this by becoming a leader with the children, making cliques and learning how far she could push things, both as a result of her own ego and a bid to get her mother's attention. During her teenage years, Lure and Nafika clashed a great deal as Nafika's expectations for her were high, and somewhat motivated by who she wished she had been during her youth. Their relationship became colder and colder as Lure became invested in music and Kinglore care instead of weaving to spite Nafika. Yet, Lure attempts to emulate her mother in many ways, since in her heart, she truly admires her. Angwe, Aranahe Master Hunter. An older hunter who sees himself as master of the skies, Angwe has the responsibility of guiding young Aranahe to the Ikran roost when they are ready for the trial. He is sympathetic of Etua and enjoys her daring and rebellious spirit. This causes some complications for Katnat, who is surprised to see an older, respected member of the clan support some of Etua's ideas. It also causes some strife for Angwe's son, Ne'an, who is eager for his family to stay in Katnat's good graces. Angwe misses his glory days as the clan's master hunter and wishes he could still fly for long stretches and have his own adventures. Angwe misses having that purpose and tends to live vicariously through his students. Nektu. A talented but often bored dyer, Nektu is a classic example of a child lacking a challenge. She once dreamed of racing Ikran alongside her older sister, Alemun, but fell from the floating mountains during her Ikran trial 6 months ago. Luckily, she did not fall to her death, but the experience embedded a deep-seated fear in her that now keeps her from trying again. Instead, she fills her days with dying skills, but despite her talent for the art, she finds it dull. This makes her particularly frustrated when it comes to clumsy Tahewu. She thinks he's wasting his time trying to become a good weaver despite having so many other options. When not in the weaving area, Netu can usually be found admiring the Ikran from a distance. Nilngan, Aranahe musician. Nilngan is a fierce traditionalist. He is a skilled musician, and aside from Lure, he is the clan's only solo performer. A bit older than Katnat, Nilnan was childhood friends with the Olo Akdan and trusts him with his life. He believes Katnat knows what is best for the clan, and that Etua should listen to her father. He also has a fascination with the stars, having been educated and trained in their study by his father. Nilnan shared a deep bond with him, and after his passing, he cemented himself even more in the stability of stars and the precise technique of his music. Lure convinced him to take her on as his apprentice, and she soon surpassed him, becoming a solo musician herself. This dented Nilnang's ego a little. Unlike Lure, Nilnang does not play out of a desire for attention, but out of a genuine love for the art. Satnap, Traveler. Satnap is an older Natvi who's traveled the world and is going to tell everyone all about it. He stares into the distance, growing misty-eyed as he rhapsodizes about the exotic foods he's sampled and the feasts he's enjoyed. But now that he's older, he misses all the excitement of new gastronomic experiences, especially trying out new food wrap recipes from far-flung places. He likes a good joke and seems resigned to staying in the Kinglor Forest camps now, but his stories are wistful. His love of adventure means he is an absent father to his daughter Koranu, whom he had later in life. He has no idea how much this absence has affected her. Tahewu, Aranahe Weaver. A clumsy artisan, Tahewu struggles to find his place among his peers. He admires Nafika and wants to be a great student, but constantly makes mistakes. Other students are embarrassed by his mistakes and tend to ignore him. His awkward fumbling is at odds with a clan that values beauty, artistry, and elegance. Tahewu's older sister Vefilu is a great hunter, and his mother Nawuk is a great artist. He feels he needs to honor family values and traditions by choosing one of these paths. His clumsiness precluded him from hunting, so he turned to art. Smitten with fellow weaving apprentice Koranu, this is the first time Tahewu's ever been in love and is desperate for advice. He's determined to show his love through actions. He has a romanticized view of the world, especially his love. He's willing to see the good in everyone and is desperate to prove himself worthy. Tsukiri, an Aranahe gatherer. Tsukiri the gatherer has seen it all and is tired of it. Preferring to spend long stretches away from home tree, Tsukiri spends each day wandering the rainforest, foraging for rare and unusual fruit. Tsukiri is friends with Leita, the lead gatherer, but disagrees with her support for Etua over Katnat. Tsukiri grew up with Katnat and supports him as Olo Ektan. According to Tsukiri, everything Katnat says is gospel. Tsukiri, being pragmatic in all things, has opinions about the Aranahe and Etua and is not afraid to share them. Natwuk, Aranahe Tanner. A hard-working Tanner, Natwuk is constantly striving for the balance between fitting in with her clan and being true to herself. Her temper saw her shunned from the Aranahe for a short period of time, as she had repeated angry outbursts that questioned the wisdom of the clan. Her punishment was brief, and she has now been accepted back into the clan, but the experience wounded her pride. Natwuk now tries to conform to the unspoken social contract for the sake of her children, Tahewu and Vefilu, but she is finding it difficult. Vuan, Aranahe gatherer. Vuan has been a proud Aranahe gatherer for many years, following Leita as her apprentice since her youth. Vuan is good friends with Leita and is wary of her fellow gatherer, Tsukiri, whom she finds overbearing. She admires Etua and sees her as a breath of fresh air for the clan. Due to this, Vuan quietly questions some of Katnat's views, but would dare not say so in front of a large group. She spends her days wandering and gathering around the Kinglor Forest. Asahe, Etua's mother and formerly the Aranahe Tsahik. Asahe always toyed with the line between clan traditions and making her own way in life. She felt a connection with the Kinglor from a very young age, which led to a strong bond between her and the previous Tsahik, and then with the Tsahik's only son, Katnat. Years later, Katnat and Asahe were beloved as leaders of the clan for their balance and respect of the Aranahe ways. When Etua was born, Asahe soon realized her daughter might have inherited too much of her spirit. Yet, instead of discouraging her, she spent a lot of time distracting Katnat from his wild daughter, both excusing and enabling her behind his back. When the RDA returned to Pandora, Asahe reached out to the human resistance to offer support. However, she was shot when the resistance was ambushed by the RDA. The resistance made sure Asahe got back to Hometree, but Katnat threatened to kill the humans if they ever came close to Hometree again. Asahe spent a day under intense care to no avail, and died in Katnat's arms, as Kai, the Aranahe death doula, helped her return to Keawa. The Zeswa are a traveling tribe, and you can find them at the Circle. This is the wandering home of the Zeswa clan, where tents are built around the torpid Zakru while they feed. Colorful soaring kites mark its location in the far-stretching grasslands. Although one herd has migrated into the heart of the plains, the Zakru of the Circle remain in their torpor, cared for by Zeswa not competing in the Great Games. One day these Zakru will stir and follow their instincts to new feeding grounds, but for now, the Circle remains the vibrant, active center of Zeswa life. Keen, Zeswa Master Dairy Crafter. Keen is the garrulous dairy master of the Zeswa and welcomes all, including the Sarentu, with a drink of Zanka and stories of the clan and the upper plains. As a Zeswa elder, Keen acts as an advisor to the tempestuous sisters and clan leaders Minang and Nasim. He is also close friends with Sosul, the burden carrier, who lives apart from the clan. Keen sees the Great Games is an opportunity to break out the aged Zanka and welcome all to witness the migration of the Zakru, a defining event in Zeswa culture. Minang, Sahik of the Zeswa. Minang, the Sahik of the Zeswa, forges deep spiritual connections with the animals of the upper plains. As a cunning strategist and natural observer, she hopes the resistance will help them find the Sky People's weakness. Minang swore revenge on the RDA for murdering Pasuk, the Zakru. Grief-stricken, she now takes on an aggressive role, something she normally balances out in her sister. In the battle at the RDA's extractor plant, Minang led the Zeswa to victory alongside her sister Nasim. This victory over the Sky People brought her some degree of peace. The Zakru migration is an auspicious sign for Minang, as the Zakru move back towards the site of the Zeswa ancestors' first Great Games. With her sister Nasim, Minang decides the time has come to hold the games again. However, Harding's attack on the Great Games and the death of so many Zakru is a devastating blow to Minang. As Nasim takes the fight to the RDA, Minang steels herself to do what must be done, honor the dead, and guide her clan forward. No Zeswa Sahik in memory or song has endured so painful a wound against both clan and Zakru herd. In the battle at Harding's operating base Alpha, Minang once again led the Zeswa to victory alongside the combined Na'vi forces. But the damage has been done, and she is left with a shadow upon her heart. Nasim, Olo Ekdan of the Zeswa. The charismatic and vivacious Olo Ekdan of the Zeswa, Nasim has always been a forceful and instinctual warrior. The Sky People invading the upper plains are apt to bring out her more impulsive side with their atrocities, and the Sarentu's arrival has in itself brought new momentum to her drive. It is her sister Minang's prudence that keeps her and the clan in balance. Alongside her sister, Nasim led the Zeswa to victory at the Battle of the Extractor Plant, which calmed her raging spirits. With peace across the plains, Nasim proudly announced the Great Games and invited the clans of the Western Frontier to attend and celebrate and compete. She was especially delighted to invite the returned Sarentu to join the games, and in the spirit of unity, she extended the invitation to the human members of the Resistance. Competing in the Great Games warms Nasim's heart, and she takes great pleasure in friendly competition, showing off a humorous and playful side. However, Harding's attack on the Great Games hardened Nasim's heart once more. As soon as camp was secure, she left almost immediately with Sotlek and a band of warriors seeking revenge. Nasim fought alongside her sister Minang and the combined Na'vi forces at the Battle of Operating Base Alpha, where they led the clans to victory against Harding's forces. Now, Nasim must look towards the future and rebuilding her clan's strength once more. Sosul, a Zeswa burden carrier. Sosul was trained as a dairy maker by Keen, with whom he developed a close friendship. But Sosul had always felt the need for a higher purpose to help his clan beyond his everyday work. Thus, when the cycle of renewal marked by tradition was complete, and the time to choose a burden carrier arrived, he felt with certainty he must join the competitions. Thanks to his determination, he received the honor of collecting all the excessive physical weight of the clan into a large bundle, strap it to his back, and walk off into the wilderness to allow his clan to travel light. Since then, Sosul has led a solitary life, a recluse to his people, carrying the ritual weight, his burden, with him wherever he has gone. Eventually, Sosul wandered into the Weeping Gorge, the Zakru graveyard of the tales of his childhood. He found the wind flutes in the gorge in disrepair, howling and wailing instead of singing in the wind as they were meant to. Sosul took on the task of bringing their music back, a task he has now, upon rejoining with his clan, shared with the Sarentu. Sosul has enjoyed reconnecting with his clan, sharing his wisdom, and learning how the wider world of the Zeswa has changed in his absence. The Great Games gives him an opportunity to engage in ancient Na'vi traditions and indulge in some cheese and zanka with his good friend Keen. Akore, Zeswa dairy crafter. As a crafter of dairy, Akore's work takes place at the very heart of the clan, where she overhears everything there is to know and tell. She is a treasure of private stories and does her best to stay on the good side of hunters and scouts to hear the gossip from afar. Crafting delicate cheeses and drinks for their journeys, she is usually the first to hear the latest from the bordering clans. Thus, she is the primary source of news for the Zeswa, but also the main originator of rumors, true or untrue, which bestow her with a special kind of power she doesn't always know how to control. Karmang, Zeswa dire horse rider. At an early age, Karmang took after her mother, a brave hunter who was known for her prowess on a dire horse. Tragically, her mother died on a hunt when she was young, but Karmang still feels that she is near when she rides. While Karmang admires the skill and care of those who tend to the Zakru, she finds them too slow for her taste, and in turn, she feels like a bad member of the clan. As such, she finds any excuse to travel on her own. Friends with Tamu since childhood, he helps Karmang deal with tasks within the clan, and Karmang stands up for Tamu when he's uncomfortable standing up for himself. Tamu, Zeswa Zakru caretaker. Tamu was born on the same day as one of his clan's Zakru, a good omen in the Zeswa culture. He grew up alongside the Zakru who shared his birthday and naturally took to tending and caretaking of Zakru at large. While he takes great comfort in spending time grooming, cleaning, and otherwise spending time around the giant beasts, he equally loves having someone to talk to. In the absence of other Na'vi around, he will often talk to the animals. When especially lonely, he answers himself on the Zakru's behalf in a deep, fake voice. Some of Tamu's closest friends refer to him as the smallest Zakru. Tukru, a Zakru caretaker. Tukru's most cherished memories are of growing up among the painters of Zakru, playing war paint with other kids, throwing fistfuls of powdered pigments to each other among the looming masses of the sleeping beasts. To him, the Zakru felt like mountains. It was as though his mock fights with the other children were set among valleys, ravines, and tall cliffs that ended up adorned by the colorful patterns imprinted by their projectiles. He found in the creativity of those early games his calling, and in their rambunctiousness he developed his character. Fond of Zanka, wrestling, and the most rowdy of celebrations in the circle, Tukru lives and breathes partying whenever he is not painting. Yarun, Zeswa dire horse rider. Feeling her life is nearing its end, Yarun has left her clan behind, searching for her final resting place in the wilderness, in accordance to the traditions. A formidable warrior and hunter in life, now living beyond a symbolic death. Yarun sees her last adventure in the poetic light of the folk tales of her people. In these stories, a cast of venerable hunters cruise the distant grasslands, chasing the primordial wind from which the Zakru originated. Nihuen, Zeswa dire horse rider. Apprentice of Fayu, the whimsical adventurer, Nihuen struggles to keep up, not due to inability or lack of skill, but the lack of experience combined with his mentor's unpredictability. Nihuen is in fact a skilled Ikran rider and a reliable scout. While he is persistent in his efforts, he is often prone to overlooking important matters in his rush, which causes all kinds of trouble. Fayu, Zeswa dire horse rider. Unlike other Zeswa dire horse riders, Fayu prefers to get around on his Ikran, Anara. He has a deeply seated distrust for the dire horse due to a childhood accident. Since then, Fayu has found a remedy to his insecurities in the thrill of adventure, where accomplishing increasingly dangerous feats enhances his sense of control. On the other hand, he has discouraged his daughter from pursuing her dreams of becoming a rider. When he is not at the heart of the party, Fayu tends to vanish without notice, only to come back telling tall tales of exhilarating danger in his loud and boisterous manner. Haum, traveler. Raised in the Kame'tire clan as a herbalist, in her youth, Haum traveled to the upper plains to compete in the inter-clan games. Fascinated with the endless excitement of the Zeswa, Haum decided to stay. She became a brewer of Zanka, and soon her experimental blends became quite popular. Decades later, she feels at home among her new clan, which she finds warm and welcoming, if a bit too loud. Every time the clan sets camp in a new direction, Haum sets up one for herself in a solitary place, from which she can contemplate the mushroom-shaped rocks that remind her of her original home. Akru, Zeswa kite builder. The proud and jaunty masters of kites, Akru oversees kite construction as well as the creation of Zeswa tents. An artist of the ephemeral, Akru must see these creations built and undone over and over as the Zeswa clan follows the unpredictable migrations of the Zakru. As a perfectionist, Akru insists on realizing every detail with great care, and as a result, feels some sadness at the loss of these works time and time again. Akru is often keen to share quality materials with those who have a similar thirst for artistic knowledge. Solali, Zeswa dire horse rider. Solali grew up listening to her grandmother's heroic tales with her sister, but unlike Woe, she focused on Yarun's recounting of the great inter-clan games of old. The playful nature of these warlike celebrations of athletic power and competition was inspiring for Solali, and she has worked hard to become the best athlete in the clan. She hopes to one day be a victor like her grandmother, and now that the Sarentu have returned, Solali hopes that the Great Games will return soon. She is extremely knowledgeable when it comes to weapons. Now that the Great Games have finally returned, Solali sees this as an opportunity to test herself, and she observes the skills of other warriors with great excitement. She is keen to get her bows and spears in the hands of Natvi, who truly appreciate them. The Aranahe may dazzle with their pretty textiles, but no one can doubt the craftsmanship of her weapons. Nokape, Zeswa dairy crafter. Nokape, the crafter, grew up in a large, loud family. The youngest of many siblings, she came to relish moments of peace and quiet, annoyed by the chaos around her. She learned to cut through the loudness with anger and had frequent fights with her father, Tukru. She was closest with her brother Sosul, whose more poetic inclinations she found soothing. When Sosul decided to take the burden and leave the clan, Nokape was deeply disappointed and isolated herself from her family, keeping a close tie only with her niece Woi. Tukari, Zeswa dire horse rider. Tukari is a smug athlete and self-proclaimed champion of dance fighting, the wrestling-like competition of the Zeswa clan. Something of a show-off, she has found it difficult to get herself noticed as a fighter due to being a child of a family of crafters and a younger sibling of Karmongs. She has a close but competitive friendship with Solali. Fatzak, Zeswa Zakru caretaker. Fatzak was once a kite maker, a craft she practiced with her mate. However, when her mate was killed in a skirmish with the RDA, Fatzak left the craft and never looked back. Afterwards, Fatzak became a caretaker of the Zakru, but she never fully moved on from the death of her beloved partner. Novao, Zeswa cook. Novao is the kind of creative who is useless at just about anything else. He can come up with the most startlingly inventive dishes, but he ruins as many as he creates, and has no filter to tell if something is good or not. He takes others' supplies without asking, never cleans his pots, and infuriates everyone around him with his thoughtlessness. But everyone has to admit that when he succeeds, he makes the best food they have ever tasted. While flighty, he is willing to share his recipes with those who show an interest in cooking. Why? Zeswa dairy crafter. Wai was always a curious child who cherished her grandmother's stories of adventure and dreamed of seeing the furthest reaches of the grasslands. But due to his own traumas, her father has tried to keep her away from the dire horse and closer to the protective Zakru. Seeing Woai grow bored with the repetitive tasks of taking care of Zakru, her grandfather Keen took her under his wing and taught her dairy craft, a more creative activity. But though the art of dairy was meant as a compromise between her interests and her father's wishes, Woai remains unconvinced. You can find the Kame'tire in the Hollows, the home of the Kame'tire clan. A small settlement compared to other clans, it is comprised of traditional wood-shaped dwellings nestled in a rocky gorge. The Kame'tire retreated here after the disappearance of the Sarentu, but many have since left, troubled by the past. Now that the Kame'tire know Anufi didn't kill the Sarentu, the mood has lifted in the Hollows. People are already returning after a long time away. The Hollows has a new energy to it since Kame'tire have returned, as family and friends have been reunited after so many years. Oh cool, Kame'tire herbalist. A curious herbalist, Okul is studying a strange toxic fog called the Yava. Okul is one of the few Kame'tire excited to meet a Sarentu stranger. Mentored by the great Kame'tire herbalist Sul, Okul misses him dearly since his passing. Okul is determined to complete Sul's studies of the Yava. This determination and curiosity pays off, and Okul finally completes the antidote for protection against the Yava's sickness. Okul's belief in Anufi is unshaken. This culminates in Okul drinking from one of Anufi's vials found at the Sarentu Moot site, proving she didn't kill the Sarentu. Okul's faith in Anufi helps her believe in herself and the clan again. It is a moment of healing for the clan. Anufi, Sahik of the Kame'tire. Anufi is the Kame'tire Sahik and lives in self-exile outside the Hollows. She has lost her grip on reality after so long alone and lives haunted by the disappearance of the Sarentu. She is a master healer, but no longer practices herbalism, convinced that she killed the Sarentu with one of her remedies. Anufi wears a prosthetic arm crafted by Unaluk, the wood shaper, after she damaged the limb in an accident. After meeting the Sarentu, Anufi began to doubt that she had harmed the Sarentu clan. When Mokasa confesses his betrayal, Anufi finally lays the past to rest and resumes her duties as Sahik, helping the clan move forward. Anufi steps back into her role as healer when she goes to the resistance and helps the injured recover. Anufi leads the Kame'tire as they join the resistance and the other clans to stop Mercer's extraction plans in the western frontier. It is clear that she will be the leader the clan needs to rejoin the world and heal from the past. The Great Games is a chance for Anufi and the Kame'tire to connect with the other clans of the western frontier after their long isolation. But Mokasa's arrival at the Great Games is a profound shock to all. Anufi is torn. She feels for Mokasa's loneliness, but recognizes he has yet to take responsibility for his actions, both against her and the Sarentu. Harding's attack on the Great Games camp causes total devastation. Known to Harding as the leader of the Kame'tire since the formation of TAP, Harding targets Anufi for kidnapping in the aftermath of the chaos. She hopes to learn more about the Na'vi resistance from her. Anufi was rescued by the Sarentu, but not before Mokasa attempted to save her and was fatally wounded. She grants Mokasa mercy and helps him connect with Keawa one last time before he dies. In her role as Sahik, Anufi recognizes that Mokasa wishes to make up for the past and has finally come to terms with his guilt. At the Hollows, Anufi has resumed her teaching as the Kame'tire clan continues to heal. However, her thoughts turn to those clan members who have not yet come home. She asks the Sarentu if they can find her friend Tsutlo and the rest of the Keawa Kame'tire, a group of healers who left the clan after the shame of the Sarentu massacre. For Anufi, the Sarentu is the greatest proof she can offer the lost Kame'tire of their clan's innocence, and she hopes that perhaps they can be persuaded to return to the Hollows. During the battle to destroy the Grinder, Anufi and Tsutlo reunite. They still have much to resolve between them, but both are ready to confront the past and move towards a new, united future for the sake of their people. Mokasa, Anufi's advisor. Mokasa is the imposing leader of the Kame'tire. He is advisor to Anufi, the Kame'tire Sahik, but she lives in self-exile, and in her absence, Mokasa has assumed the role of clan leader. The clan is naturally reclusive, but under Mokasa's leadership, there is a deep mistrust of outsiders. Anufi discovered that Mokasa betrayed the Sarentu to save the Kame'tire children. He was the Kame'tire ally Alma mentioned in her TapCon 1 video. He didn't know it would end in a massacre, but convinced Anufi that she was to blame, casting shame on the entire clan. Mokasa couldn't connect to Keawa for fear of revealing his heavy secret. Mokasa now lives in exile, forbidden from connecting to Keawa ever again, a grim fate for any Na'vi. Mokasa struggled to live alone, shunned by all clans and forbidden from connecting with Keawa, a rule he has obeyed in the hopes that he will one day reconcile with Anufi. He arrived at the Great Games camp, longing to be with his clan again and desperately hoping this time of clan unity might be a way for him to seek forgiveness and finally be taken back by Anufi. However, consumed by anger, he blamed the humans and specifically Alma for putting him in the position of having to betray the Sarentu and, in turn, blame Anufi for his actions. Much to his disappointment, Anufi rebuffed him, as it was clear to her that Mokasa had not learned from his mistakes. After Harding attacked the Great Games camp and Alma rescued Mokasa from the rubble, he began to question his assumptions that all humans are the same and whether it is possible to redeem great wrongs. Quietly, he was surprised that Alma helped him instead of running away from the danger, but he wondered if she acted out of guilt rather than a true willingness to do better. Determined to try to do better himself, Mokasa put himself in harm's way to rescue Anufi from Harding's base, but was mortally wounded. At the Tree of Echoes, Mokasa admitted his guilt and repentance to Anufi. He was filled with shame, knowing that his death meant he could never work towards the redemption and reconciliation with his clan that he so desperately wanted. Anufi, in a final act of mercy, helped Mokasa connect with Keawa one last time before he died. Zamhil, Kame'tire hunter. Zamhil is a devoted hunter, but these days she spends much of her time as Anufi's caretaker. Over time, Zamhil has come to understand Anufi and her needs, becoming protective of her when visitors arrive. Satne, charismatic Kame'tire hunter. Since her mentor abandoned her, Satne feels like others only let her down. Due to this, she prefers her own company. She returns to the Hollows to bring meat for the clan and to connect to Keawa, but otherwise, she roams as she pleases. After being attacked by a feral that almost killed her, she bears the scar across her chest. She tracks the beast that injured her but does not kill it, believing there is no honor in ending the life of one that cannot be with Keawa. Satne joined the fight against Mercer alongside Zamhil and Anufi from the Kame'tire. Satne accompanied Anufi and other Kame'tire to the Great Games, hopeful for her clan's future. But when Mokasa arrived, Satne was frustrated that Anufi did not send him away. For Satne, Mokasa's presence forces the pain and shame he caused the Kame'tire clan to resurface, and Satne has no time for Mokasa's words. Uwol, Kame'tire brewer. A loud voice who enjoys stirring trouble, Uwol keeps an ear to the ground for any juicy gossip to gain power within the clan. He likes to be the questioning voice to keep people in check and win favor with clan leaders. However, he may not apply the rules to himself. Nobody's really friends with Uwol, they mostly just tolerate him. He's very loyal to Mokasa, who he sees as a strong leader in contrast to Anufi, who is lost in her guilt. Mokasa uses Uwol to spread discontent, but Uwol thinks he's more of a right-hand man. Namtet, storyteller. Namtet is the leader of the Kame'tire Storytellers group. The group acts out the stories brought from other clans and traditionally the Sarentu. Since the loss of the Sarentu, the storytelling arts of the Kame'tire have struggled to stay alive, and the lack of new stories makes Namtet feel invisible and worthless. He is determined to rebuild this performance art and believes it will bring life back to the clan. Uniluk, Kame'tire Woodshaper. Uniluk is the last remaining artisan woodshaper. When Anufi damaged her arm, he created her beautiful prosthetic. However, once Anufi withdrew from the Kame'tire and the clan disintegrated, Uniluk lost faith in his abilities. He became obsessed with a mythical wood said to have been used by the very first woodshaper. He was convinced this would give him the inspiration he needed to become the ultimate woodshaper with the power to unite the clan. With the reunion of the Kame'tire clan, Uniluk's wood-shaping skills make his talents popular with many. Hastu, Kame'tire herbalist. Hastu is haunted by the disappearance of his mother and finds it difficult to fit in with other young Kame'tire, but he likes to run with a crowd, which means he gets into trouble trying to be the one of the gang. He has a crush on Kalu, who is drawn to him because she knows what it's like to lose a parent. Setral, Kame'tire gatherer. Setral has been the caretaker at the trading post for as long as anyone can remember. She's watched generations of Na'vi gather to trade stories, goods, and meals. All of that started to fade when the Sarentu vanished. Gradually, trade between the clans began to wane, as rumors of the Kame'tire's involvement in the disappearance began. Visitors eventually stopped coming at all. Members of her clan have approached Setral and tried to get her to move back to the Hollows, but she refuses to leave the home where she's always lived. Setral pretends she doesn't need people, but misses the stories, laughter, and joy. Takati, Kame'tire storyteller. A singer imbued with the history of her clan. Takati knows everyone's story, past and present. She sings tales of the ancestors to honor them at clan gatherings, but can also embarrass others by bringing up more recent things they'd rather forget. Takati is mysterious, a bit intimidating, and treated with great respect. She holds a deep understanding of her clan and the clouded forest that allows her to see patterns others don't, sometimes even predicting behavior. She will embellish events to add impact to her songs, even if someone may be hurt by it. She sees truth as something fluid, because one person's truth is different from another's, after all. Haikenek. Haikenek lost her best friend at a young age to a Thanator attack. It happened despite all the precautions the clan put in place to guard against it. Since then, she's fostered the attitude that there's no point in thinking about the future. The end could come at any moment, and even the best laid plans won't prevent it. She has a friend and balancing force in Zamhil, who encourages her to plan more and take fewer risks. Haikenek sometimes feels Zamhil is holding her back, while her own carelessness causes friction in the friendship. Haikenek is a skilled weapon crafter among the Kame'tire and is always willing to share her designs. Kalu, Kame'tire herbalist. Kalu was orphaned alongside her brother, Tuntu, which made the two inseparable. She is the more adventurous of the siblings and is frustrated by the reclusive state of the Kame'tire clan and their inability to question Mokasa. She likes Hastu, who has a crush on her, but it's easier to just stay friends and keep things simple. Famuk, Kame'tire mask maker. Famuk is a Kame'tire artisan and mask maker who spends her days mixing dyes and foraging for new ingredients for her masks. She is eager to keep clan traditions alive, and is one of the few people who puts up with her brother, Ual's inflexible and mean-spirited nature. However, much of the slack she offers him is due to her guilt. Famuk was foraging with Ual's mate when, in a bit of fun, Famuk dared her to gather from a plant growing on a precarious tree branch over a thundering waterfall. As she reached the spot, the branch broke. She fell into the water, which carried her over the falls, where she was dashed on the rocks below. The clan deemed it an unfortunate accident, but Famuk blames herself. Her guilt grows each day, and as a result, she puts up with Ual's mistreatment and supports him in his petty squabbles. Manwe, Kame'tire throat singer. Manwe spends most of his time wandering the forest, looking for places with interesting acoustics for his throat singing. He seems very laid back, but has a growing resentment towards the human destruction of the forest. Jovial and friendly, he doesn't share much personally. Behind the facade, Manwe possesses a deep melancholy and longs for the time when the Sarentu spread stories. Occasionally, this will come out in song. Reitzu, Kame'tire Totemaker. Reitzu, the Totemaker, longs for the past. His mate became distant as the Kame'tire clan dissolved, and one morning she was gone without a trace. Reitzu believes she will still return, and that when she does, everything will go back to normal again. In the meantime, he hoped his son Hastu would follow in his craft, but he also left to forge his own path in the Hollows. As a consummate craftsperson, Reitzu divides his time between making totems in the time-honored Kame'tire tradition and working on his own new designs. Tuntu, Kame'tire cook. When he's not goofing around with friends, Tuntu is a keen cook. He makes sure he and his big sister Kalu always eat together by preparing a good meal. After losing their parents, Tuntu struggles with change and is protective of Kalu. This can lead to friction as she likes her independence. Tuntu doesn't like Kalu's friendship with Hastu, believing him to be a bad influence, but his jealousy risks of pushing her further away. Sul, Kame'tire herbalist. Sul is a Kame'tire healer who has a workshop in the Hollows. Sul was Okul's mentor, but after the disappearance of the Sarentu, he lost himself in mysterious research. His obsession with the Yava led to his death. Sheltering Falls. The Keawa Kame'tire have hidden away their home within a cave in the spires of the Clouded Forest. It is deep inside a huge rock spire, found at the end of a vast canyon. Belying its rocky exterior, inside it is homely but practical, with a huge landing pad for these expert Ikran riders. Malo. A thoughtful, charismatic hunter with a mind for strategy. Malo plans and engages in brave strikes against the RDA invaders. She is determined to protect the spires from this threat and does not hold back from a fight. However, after all these years in the spires, Malo still misses the Hollows. She believes she has a duty to uphold Kame'tire tradition, passing on her family's history and practices, especially to her daughter, Hamarun. With the arrival of the young Sarentu, Malo sees a chance for the Keawa Kame'tire to reunite with their clan and to return to their true home. Heinwick, young Keawa Kame'tire hunter. Heinwick is the older brother of Hauerwein and looks out for him at all times. They've always been close, which makes their parents happy, as they brought their children to the spires hoping for a more positive environment than the Hollows. As the more introverted of the brothers, Heinwick is happy to be in the background. However, it is this which gives him an unexpected talent at ambush tactics and setting traps against the RDA. He is an expert in sabotage under Imon's tutelage and knows how to get in and out of enemy territory quietly without being seen. When the Sarentu arrives, Heinwick is not sure about returning to the Hollows and being around so many people. He likes the desolate landscape of the spires. He will take risks to protect the spires and his people from the RDA, and is impressed by the Sarentu's willingness to do the same. Sutlo, Keawa Kame'tire leader. Sutlo is the reluctant but charming leader of the Keawa Kame'tire. He was the Kame'tire's best hunter and like a brother to Anufi, the Kame'tire clan's Sahik. However, Sutlo was disappointed in what he saw with Anufi's willingness to retreat from the clan and her collaboration with Mokasa following the Sarentu massacre. He joined the hunters and healers who decided to leave the Hollows and venture into the spires, those who the clan now calls the Keawa Kame'tire. Unlike Anufi, Sutlo was never destined for leadership. He was a hothead in his youth, yet a man of the people. This charisma and natural authority quickly saw him become the de facto leader of this new group of Kame'tire. As such, he feels much responsibility for his people and the home they built in the spires over the years. He will not abandon his home to ruin. Sutlo is willing to train the Sarentu in the ways of the Keawa Kame'tire and quickly sees that the Sarentu has much to offer. Together, the Sarentu and the Keawa Kame'tire could be a powerful force against the Sky People. After the battle to destroy the Grinder results in victory, Sutlo and Anufi have a prickly reunion. They have much to discuss before they can truly lay the past to rest, but they both agree to build a future together with the Kame'tire clan reunited. Imon, veteran hunter. Imon is a veteran hunter among the Keawa Kame'tire. She is one of the original Kame'tire who traveled to the spires with Sutlo from their home in the Hollows. When Mokasa took over the Kame'tire, it wasn't a hard choice for Imon to leave with the others. Even though she respected Anufi's decision, Mokasa had never felt right to her. Now, later in life, she wonders if that choice wasn't made a little hastily, but it is in the past and there is a new community to guide and watch over. While she has no interest in leading, she is very much a protector of the clan, looking within as well as without for any signs of danger. When she first encounters the Sarentu, she dismisses them as another young hunter rushing into battle. Imon leads the Keawa Kame'tire in their ambushes against the RDA. When the Sarentu helps them take down the Dragon airship as part of the aerial convoy ambush, she is quietly impressed by their skills. This new ally gives her hope that they may win the battle. During the battle to destroy the Grinder, Imon was killed, saving her student Emere from an aerial attack. Emere, young Keawa Kame'tire hunter. Emere is an experienced hunter, keen to prove himself in the clan. He is one of the younger members of the Keawa Kame'tire. The spires are the only home he's ever known, and he's keen to fight for it when the RDA arrives. Emere has a difficult relationship with his father, Memna, who is hard on him. Instead, he looks up to Sutlo and wants to be like him, a fierce warrior but fair leader. When the Sarentu arrives, Emere is jealous of the attention Sutlo gives them. He is unsure of them and sees them as arrogant on first meeting. When the Sarentu comes to help Emere and his best friend, Hauerwein, at the bridge, Emere begins to see that they have an understanding of humans that could be useful in their fight. He also has a begrudging respect for the way the Sarentu is willing to put themselves in harm's way to help the Keawa Kame'tire against the RDA. During the battle to destroy the Grinder, Emre was protected by Emon, who died saving him. He tells the Sarentu about this loss, growing to trust them after seeing the Sarentu take on Commander Bruno with the help of their friends. He wants to learn from them to become a better warrior for his clan, knowing the Sky People will be back someday. Zat, food artisan. Zat is one of the best cooks and healers in the Spires, always willing to share new recipes and tasty treats with Natvi and Ikran alike. He believes that a full belly and the warmth of the fire can cure many ills. Although he is outwardly jovial, Zat harbors a lot of grief. His partner was killed in a hunt shortly after arriving in the Spires. Deep down, he resents the move to the Spires and is intrigued by the Sarentu's news that Anufi hopes the clan will return home. However, now faced with the opportunity, Zat finds himself torn as he realizes how much of a home he's made in the Spires as well. Hamarun, gear artisan. Hamarun is an expert weaver, armor maker, and well-rounded artisan for the people of the Spires who appreciate her robust and reliable designs. She is a child of the Spires, the first of the clan to be born outside of the Hallows. Over the years, she honed her craft under the tutelage of the clan elders, but has since forged her own new materials and techniques to deal with the harsh conditions of the Spires. As the daughter of a notable clan leader, Kupmalo, Hamarun is under some pressure to adopt and embody more traditional Kame'tire values. When she clashes with her mother, which is rarely, it is because Hamarun does not see how long-standing Kame'tire ways apply to her life in the Spires. Nentuk. Nentuk is a weapons artisan who was born in the Hallows but has lived most of her life in the Spires. She has a gift for woods, waxes, shellacs, and twines, creating intricately beautiful yet practical weapons for hunters, both to feed and protect her clan. Her manner and work ethic means she is held by Tsutlo as an exemplar of clan values, stoicism, and directness in the trying environment of the Spires. She slightly resents the weight of this responsibility, craving to be part of the wider Natvi world. The arrival of the Sarentu offers her hope that she will get to explore. Sekke, Ikran gear artisan. Sekke is the Ikran expert of the Keawa Kame'tire and is always happy to share gear designs with others. Although born in the Hallows, Sekke does not remember it as the family made the move to the Spires soon afterwards. Due to this, Sekke has never felt an urge to return to the Hallows, remaining fiercely proud of the Keawa Kame'tire home. With not many other children to play with and flying being an important skill in the region, Sekke fixated on Ikran and soon became an expert flyer and gear artisan for the skies. Sekke is both surprised and impressed that the Sarentu managed to retrieve the Ikran armor and tools lost to the RDA, gifting the armor to the Sarentu as thanks and helping them craft more. When it seems the clan's efforts to destroy the Grinder may fail, Sekke reluctantly tells the Sarentu about an elder Chiroptera living nearby, whose especially tough hide should create an exceptionally strong armor. This is a difficult sacrifice, but Sekke recognizes the need to destroy the Grinder for the sake of all living things in the Spires. Memna, Tsutlo's confidant. Memna is a calm, collected herbalist, but is willing to take up arms when he must. He is well known among the young Natvi of the Spires for his skill as an Ikran rider and his peculiar ways of strengthening the bond between Ikran and rider, a fact his son Emre boasts to the Sarentu when they arrive at the Spires. Memna thinks of the Hallows often. When Mokasa took over the clan, he could see that things were taking a turn for the worse and gladly followed Tsutlo and the other Kame'tire who chose to leave home behind. The hardship of the journey and setting up the community brought Memna close with an expert potion maker, Emre's mother, who died when Emre was young. He doesn't talk about her with Emre, which is difficult for his son. Emre often feels like his father was just moved on, not realizing that Memna simply finds it too painful to talk about. Because the Keawa Kame'tire community is so small, Memna found it hard to raise Emre alone without the support of a larger clan. He quietly regrets leaving the Hallows, so when the Sarentu arrives with news from Anufi, he's keen to go back. This is another source of conflict between him and his son because Emre feels the Spires is his home. Kotsini, young Keawa Kame'tire hunter. Kotsini is a potion maker and a healer in the Keawa Kame'tire clan. Born in the Spires, Kotsini only knows the wider world and the larger Kame'tire clan from stories and memories in Ewa. For the most part, this suits her. The Spires is a beautiful place to live and their small clan is mostly harmonious. She's been raised learning about potions and healing, her caring disposition well suited to the craft, and she fulfills a valuable role for her clan. With the coming of the Sarentu, she is open to whatever change it may bring, unafraid. Hauerwein, young Keawa Kame'tire hunter. Hauerwein is a young warrior and best friends with Emre. He grew up in the Spires with his older brother, Heinrich. They are close and have an easy relationship. Hauerwein also makes friends easily with his love for life and fun, but he is an eager hunter who enjoys a fight. As a people person, Hauerwein is excited when the Sarentu arrives, and there's a chance to meet the larger Kame'tire clan. His brother, Heinrich, felt differently, and it's the first time they've disagreed, which troubles the usually happy-go-lucky Hauerwein. Set in the heart of the Kinglor Forest, Resistance HQ is the home of the Resistance. After the Battle of the Hallelujah Mountains, Jake Sully allowed certain human settlers to remain on Pandora. When the RDA returned, some of these humans left Hell's Gate to set up an active resistance in the western frontier, with Resistance HQ as their new home. It has since been expanded to accommodate new RDA defectors. Mercer's forces performed a devastating attack on Resistance HQ. The bombardment destroyed parts of the building, making it uninhabitable. With their location exposed, the Resistance had to abandon their first home, making a hasty retreat after the attack. Alma is the avatar of Dr. Alma Cortez, a brilliant xenobiologist. She worked for the RDA as a teacher in the Ambassador program, which aimed to educate Na'vi children about the human race and in the ways of xenodiplomacy, so they could create a bridge between the humans and the Na'vi. Alma was very passionate about her work, and was also something of a mother figure to her students. She saved many of the young Sarentu when the RDA evacuated from Pandora and Mercer ordered them all destroyed. While they were in cryosleep, she was allowed to stay on Pandora by Jake Sully, and now leads a resistance group in the western frontier. As Alma lies wounded from Mercer's bombing of Resistance HQ, recordings are unearthed at the TAPCon 1 facility, revealing her to have been a co-founder instead of just a teacher at TAP. But before the evacuation, she failed to persuade the Kame'tire to let their children join TAP, but was delighted to find the Sarentu instead, speaking of going to meet them with Mercer at the Sarentu Moot. She has known the truth about the clan all along. Anufi exposes that Alma learned of the Sarentu personally from Okasa, and that she led the RDA to them. Enraged by the betrayal, Nor stabs Alma. Grievously wounded, yet wanting to confess, she is taken to the Circle of Ancestors, where she shares her memories of the massacre. Alma admits to her culpability in the atrocity before her avatar dies. Her reputation tarnished by the revelation, shamed and without an avatar, Alma Cortez steps down from leading the resistance. Ritnella continues in her stead. As the Great Games bring a time of celebration for the Na'vi, Alma struggles to find her place. She throws herself back into her science research, keen to observe and record the games while trying to find ways to reconnect with the Sarentu. But the arrival of Mokasa at the Great Games serves as a shocking reminder of Alma's past actions with TAP and her fragile standing in the Na'vi community. When Harding kidnapped Alma and interrogated her in the Neuro sect, it was an extremely traumatic experience. As Mokasa lay dying at the Tree of Echoes, Alma shared a moment of understanding with him, knowing that she bore much of the responsibility for his crimes. More than ever, she feels guilt over her actions with TAP, and finally understands that redemption is not guaranteed, but it must be earned. Priya Chen, Resistance Biologist. Priya Chen is a biologist who joined the RDA's second occupation of Pandora to study extraterrestrial life. Upon seeing how the RDA was essentially repeating the mistakes humanity had made back on Earth, she defected to the Resistance. Enthusiastic and prone to awkwardness, she is one of the more energetic presences at Resistance HQ. Priya is largely in charge of radio communications at the HQ and will get in touch when there is something she needs help with or when she's bored. Sotlek, Freedom Fighter. The first true Na'vi the Sarentu had seen since they were children. Sotlek is a taciturn, stern warrior who lost most of his clan in the Umatikaya rebellion. While not fond of humans, he now fights the RDA with the Resistance. Not as many would have escaped the derelict TAP facility alive without his help. Unusually for Na'vi, Sotlek uses human weapons and has also created his own fighting style that combines the hunting techniques of his old clan with RDA technology, making him a powerful ally for the Resistance. As he fights the RDA's second occupation, Sotlek is always on the lookout for those who might have had a hand in the loss of his clan. He will go to some lengths to locate these individuals and rarely fails in his hunt. The Great Games give Sotlek a chance to reconnect with a way of life he has not known since the loss of his clan. He finds himself unusually happy at the Great Games amidst the friendly rivalry and frivolity. But Harding's attacks on the games unearths a deep anger in Sotlek. He regrets letting his guard down and allowing the RDA to catch him so unaware. The devastation of the Great Games camp is hauntingly similar to the loss of his own people. Overwhelmed, Sotlek immediately leaves the camp. He soon pushes his emotional distress aside and embraces his anger to go on the offensive against Harding's forces. A peaceful future is not yet something he can fathom. When Sotlek arrives in the home of the Keawa Kame'tire, he is impressed by their resourcefulness and fighting prowess. He has been preoccupied by the fact that Nor is still missing, so he is ready to join the fight in the spires as a welcome distraction from his concern for his friend. After the battle to destroy the grinder, Sotlek is welcomed into the fold of the newly formed Sarentu family. It has been a long time since he has felt part of a family and is secretly touched by their invitation. Together, they decide to find Nor and build a new future together. Billy Nash, Resistance Soldier. Billy Nash is a munitions expert. He joined the RDA for a chance at adventure and came to Pandora with the RDA's second invasion. But he soon realized it wasn't the heroic crusade he had hoped for. Instead, he found himself in the middle of the RDA's destruction of Pandora in the pursuit of corporate greed. Billy didn't exactly seek out the Resistance. When the Resistance raided a small outpost Billy was stationed at, he stumbled upon an opportunity to defect. Many of the more committed Resistance members don't trust Billy's motivations and keep him at arm's length. His locker room bravado and brash sense of humor don't endear Billy to anyone, and he's often found slacking off or breaking the rules. He's tolerated as opposed to liked or respected. After the bombardment of Resistance HQ, Mercer captured the Sarentu and Billy. Trapped, they cooperated in an attempt to escape the facility together, and a bond of friendship grew. Ultimately, Billy sacrificed himself to ensure the Resistance and their Sarentu friends survived. At last, he had become the hero he'd always wanted to be. Alexander Tremaine, Resistance biologist. Alexander Tremaine is a biologist who was inspired by Grace Augustine's research and enamored with the idea of Pandora and its alien life forms. Unfortunately, he never got to meet Grace, who had died before he arrived, so he promptly ran off and sided with Jake in the Kame'tire rebellion. Afterwards, Jake allowed him to stay on Pandora so he could honor Grace's work and memory. Alexander wants to study and understand Pandora's scientific wonders in all their glory, and he tells everyone all about them. He also has a knack for technology and has created the SID, Systems Interrogation Device, to assist in the fight against the RDA. Anka Salam, Resistance pilot. Anka is an excellent pilot. Trained in the Algerian Air Force, she comes from a family of academics who never understood the attraction to the military. Estranged from her family, Anka joined the RDA for a new life. She tried to rebel against the RDA from the inside once she saw how they were treating the Na'vi. After the Kame'tire rebellion, she asked Jake to let her stay with her newfound family, and he agreed. The Resistance gave her a sense of belonging she hasn't had for a long time. Jin Young McKay, Resistance carpenter. Jin is a construction engineer, but woodworking and carpentry are his true calling. He joined the RDA due to a lack of opportunity on Earth, coupled with a lack of direction in his own life. While training for the mission to Pandora, he met his future wife, Daniela Neves. They married before leaving Earth. On Pandora, he worked on large-scale heavy construction for the RDA and never saw combat. He was largely unaware of how the RDA were treating the Na'vi until Daniela told him the true horrors she had witnessed. It was her plan to join the Resistance, and he followed her. He now maintains HQ structures, builds new houses, buildings, tents, and can chat at length about the different properties of Pandoran wood versus Earth wood without boring his audience to tears. When he's not building, he loves to cook. Jin lost Daniela in the RDA bombing at the Resistance HQ. Nalin Lane, Resistance medic. Nalin Lane is a medical researcher. She came to Pandora in search of medical discoveries that could save people on Earth. However, she soon learned that the RDA didn't care about Earth and were looking to exploit a new world instead. Nalin joined the Resistance so she could make a real difference, but has since had to reconcile herself with the fact that she will likely never make it home back to her daughter Emily. Nalin records messages for her daughter even though she knows she'll never get them. She also plants things for her, imagining that her daughter will look up at Pandora from Earth. Outside of her research, Nalin serves the Resistance as a medic. With Hajir's death in the bombing, Nalin is now the head medic for the Resistance. Daniela Nevis McKay, Resistance sniper. Daniela has never known a life without combat. She grew up in an area where gunfights over water and food were a part of daily life. By age 7, Daniela was a crack shot and provided rifle cover for her family on supply runs. She was scouted by the RDA and trained to be a proper sniper. Daniela soon saw the ugly truth of what it means to be the RDA on Pandora. 2 months after landing, she and her husband Jin Young McKay both defected to the Resistance. Daniela longs for a world where her skills aren't needed and believes the Resistance offers the best hope for it. Daniela lost her life in the RDA bombing of the first Resistance HQ. Hajir Bashara, Resistance Medic. Hajir Bashara signed up with the RDA to help them map out Pandora and conduct wildlife research there. However, he found the research deeply disturbing and walked away from it and the RDA. After the Battle of the Hallelujah Mountains, he was granted permission to stay on Pandora by Jake Sully. Hajir is generally a man of few words and does not speak much of his past. He serves the Resistance as a medic. Hajir lost his life in the RDA bombing of the first Resistance HQ. Nathan Williams was an RDA botanist who arrived in the Western Frontier with the RDA's second invasion of Pandora. He left behind a son, Harry, on Earth in the care of his grandparents. Nathan was separated from Harry's mother, who had no interest in Harry, and a combination of debt and lack of opportunity had left them on the edge of poverty. The decision to go was a heartbreakingly difficult one. His son would have grown to adulthood by the time he returned, but he saw it as the only way to provide for him, a chance to make enough money to move them both somewhere they could have a better standard of life. After he got to Pandora, Nathan traveled around extensively, shuttling between RDA scientific stations and compounds, studying the flora. As a way of dealing with his sadness over leaving Harry behind, he began to sketch out a comic. Harry had always loved comics. Whenever he finished a page, he left it where it lay. He couldn't really say why. Perhaps the comic was not for Harry, it was for Nathan. His way of articulating his feelings, of connecting over the impossible distance between them. Eventually, Nathan became disillusioned with the RDA and made the difficult decision to defect to the Resistance, knowing he'd never be able to return home to Earth and be reunited with his son. He hoped Harry would understand why he didn't come back. He hoped he'd think of him as a good man, not a coward, who stood by and watched injustice happen. He hoped he'd be an example to his son. Currently, nobody knows what happened to Nathan Williams. The RDA has a wide range of facilities. This one in particular is an extraction facility. Extracting the unique natural resources of Pandora, it's one of the major motivations for the RDA's exploitation efforts. Aside from materials like unobtainium that are valuable on Earth, the RDA must also feed their operation on Pandora, recklessly extracting and using fossil fuels. The extraction site uses a wide variety of technologies from drilling to dredging, disrupting any location they are placed in. Alma, TAP teacher. Dr. Alma Cortez was a brilliant xenobiologist back on Earth, specializing in the study of alien cultural development. On Pandora, she ran the Ambassador Program, TAP, alongside John Mercer. She wanted to study Na'vi culture up close and believed she could bring them a better future. But Alma soon realized that the Na'vi are complex beings and far from the primitive savages Mercer insisted they were. In her avatar form, Alma took on the role of TAP teacher and became almost a mother figure to the Sarentu children. When the Omaticaya rebellion happened and the RDA was forced to evacuate from Pandora, Mercer told Alma to shut down TAP and terminate the assets, the Sarentu children. She ignored those orders and secretly put the children into cryosleep before escaping to Hell's Gate. She is one of the few humans Jake Sully permitted to stay on Pandora after the rebellion, hoping she could unite Na'vi and humans. However, Jake does not know about TAP. Alma spends almost all of her time in her avatar form. Due to this, some people have never met her human form. John Mercer, Director of Frontier Operations. An ambitious businessman back on Earth, John Mercer was the founder of the Ambassador Program on Pandora. He hoped to impress the RDA with Na'vi diplomats loyal to humanity, but when human relations with the Na'vi clan soured, he was ready to make do with military and covert assets. With his methods growing more abusive, he personally shot Ahadi, the most rebellious of the Sarentu students at TAP. When forced to evacuate from Pandora with the rest of the RDA, he callously ordered the remaining TAP students to be killed. Years later, Mercer returned to Pandora as the executive vice president of Frontier Operations. Highly intelligent, even brilliant, Mercer is considered a visionary by many within the RDA, albeit a controlling and vindictive one. Having manipulated Talon to reveal the location of the Resistance HQ, Mercer had it bombed, achieving his greatest victory yet against the Resistance and Dr. Alma Cortez. While Cortez had a part in creating TAP, it was Mercer who led the party to steal the Sarentu children from their parents. He had discarded diplomacy by then in favor of massacring the adults to avoid any further complications with them. Colonel Harding, RDA Colonel. Career military, Angela Harding first came to Pandora to oversee security for the ambassador program. Her direct and brutal methods were a constant source of anxiety for the students. Leaving with the RDA's evacuation of Pandora, she later returned to command SecOps operations in the whole of the Western Frontier as a colonel. Not satisfied with the gains from her position, Harding proceeded to organize a black market operation where some of her most loyal troops would poach wildlife and steal Na'vi artifacts to be peddled to wealthy collectors. Harding's black market operated out of a hunting lodge and later the extractor plant in the Upper Plains. There, it was effectively dismantled in a joint attack by the Zeswa and the Resistance. This humiliation was compounded by Mercer, laying the blame for the destroyed RDA property on Harding, creating a rift within Western Frontier Command. The cornerstone for Harding's and Mercer's longtime cooperation was originally laid in the Sarentu massacre. He ordered it while she executed it together with her troops at the time. Both of them forged their reports to the RDA to hide the atrocity. At the Battle of Drill Base Omega, Harding retreated from combat as per General Ardmore's orders, leaving Mercer to his fate. However, eager for revenge, Harding returned to the Western Frontier for a plan to strike against Na'vi leadership at the Great Games. General Ardmore was skeptical of her plans, but she gave Harding one more chance, keen to avoid wasting resources. Ardmore told Harding she had to make do with whatever she could scrounge up from the decommissioned units and weapons at Bridgehead City. As a result, Harding filled a decommissioned Valkyrie with explosives and ordered it to be crashed directly into the Great Games camp. As the Na'vi mourned their losses, Harding's forces established and reactivated RDA facilities in the Upper Plains. Her strike teams captured Anufi, the Kame'tire Sahik, and Dr. Alma Cortez, planning to interrogate them both about resistance and Na'vi leadership. Harding borrowed a Neurosec device from Bridgehead to use on Alma Cortez, hoping to crack the resistance in the Western Frontier once and for all, while also delivering information about Jake Sully's resistance to Ardmore. After the Na'vi clans attacked Operating Base Alpha, Harding attempted to escape with a digital copy of Alma's brain scan. Her Valkyrie disabled, and with no chance of escape, she was killed in battle. Lieutenant Emmett Porter. Harding's lieutenant. A career military officer, Emmett Porter is one of Harding's lieutenants. He joined the Army despite a father who wanted him to go into medicine and has not spoken with him since. Porter has modeled his career after General Ardmore's and is an ardent follower of hers. However, he is a loud and uninspiring leader. He is also arrogant and feels like he is above babysitting the command station Harding has assigned him. He feels held back by her. Porter shows his willful disdain for this post by systematically delegating his work to others, spending most of his time on AMP suit maintenance and polish. Lieutenant Key Price, Harding's lieutenant. Key Price is not only one of Harding's lieutenants, but also the SecOps boxing champion. Her combat proficiency and entitled RDA family background have played an equal part in her promotions within the RDA. Even after years in SecOps, she treats it as a game where she gets to drive AMP suits and shoot big guns. Price is now disgruntled from being left behind the lines in charge of a boring command station. She doesn't care about overseeing it, and if nothing is on fire, she won't really bother with actively managing things. Price may be slovenly, immature, and far too familiar with her superiors, but is also a serious battlefield threat. Lieutenant Key Price was killed in battle at Command Station Delta. Lieutenant Albert Hinckley, Harding's lieutenant. Logistics officer turned AMP suit driver, Albert Hinckley serves as one of Harding's lieutenants. An anomaly among the generally loud crowd of pyro specialists, he is highly controlled and squared away, and only chose the specialization for the competitive benefits package and retirement bonus. Hinckley can optimize limited resources like no one else in the RDA, but can also become manic when things go to waste, especially when it is the fuel that his AMP suit consumes. He takes bad numbers personally, feeling directly judged for every spilled coffee and idling truck. His self-worth is always one bad performance review away from a nosedive. Lieutenant Albert Hinckley was killed in battle at Command Station Charlie. Lieutenant Cassandra Slate, Harding's lieutenant. Cassandra Slate is an ex-Special Ops, ex-intelligence operative, now serving as one of Harding's lieutenants in the RDA. She was an orphan found living semi-ferally in urban ruins. Despite a rough start, or perhaps in spite of it, Slate grew up transitioning seamlessly from orphanage to military school. She moved quickly through the Army ranks, then onto Special Forces, and finally intelligence. Slate was eventually promoted to a desk job in charge of a whole continent and absolutely hated it. She took a demotion and joined the Pandora operation just to get back into the action. She is a proficient tactician and strategist, yet uses the knowledge not to minimize losses but to create intense yet winnable scenarios. Fixated, she is relentless and will not stop while the enemy still has a pulse. She is regarded as either worrisome or absolutely terrifying by most people. Lieutenant Cassandra Slate was killed in battle at Command Station Bravo. Flight Commander Antonio Bruno is part of Bridgehead SecOps, where he gained a reputation for getting things done. Ardmore assigned him to command grinder operations in the spires of the Clouded Forest after Mercer's operations failed in the rest of the Western Frontier. Bruno considered Mercer a weak leader who fell victim to personal vendettas. He holds himself to high standards and follows a strict nutritional and fitness regime, which includes yoga and martial arts. He is an expert pilot, top of his class, and has become one of the best in the RDA. His reputation has hit resistance records before as a skilled flyer that commands respect, but with a coldness that unnerves his people. The pilots Bruno commands are the elite. Only the best will do, and he protects them from corporate meddling as much as he can, so that they can operate at peak performance. He expects high standards, but takes responsibility for failures. And he leads his elite air squadron from the deck of his custom Valkyrie. After combined Na'vi forces destroyed the grinder, Antonio Bruno was killed when his Valkyrie crashed into the grinder facility.